It is now 5 o'clock according to the official clock.
I'll try again. So I'll call this the Sea Valley Planning Organization Bicycle and Pedestrian Facilities Advisory Committee to order. Just go down the line. Let's start at the far end. Identify yourself and the organization you're with.
Jeremy Barella. I'm here with the City of Las Cruces.
Longino Bustillos. I'm here with the Doña representative.
Ashley Curry, Town of Mesilla Citizen Representative.
Jim Wilcox, cyclist representative.
Albert Casillas, Doña County.
Andrew Guerra, NMDOT, District 1.
And I'm George Pearson, Citizen Representative for City of Las Cruces. Next, we have approval of the agenda. Are there any changes for the agenda from staff?
No, Mr. Chair, there are not.
I'll hear a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Ashley Curry, so moved.
Jim Wilcox, second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that's approved. Next, we have approval of the minutes. If I have a motion to approve the minutes, to place it on the table.
Andrew Guerra, motion to approve.
Albert Casillas, second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, I'll take the vote. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Hearing none, that's approved. We have an opportunity for public comment. Anybody from the public wish to comment at this point? Seeing none, we move on to action items. We have tip amendments.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the BPAC. Dominic Loya for MPO staff. So we do have this is the first quarter tip amendments for federal fiscal year 26. We do have a few of them, as well as some new projects, and then a couple of amendments. So we will start out here with LC 00610 for federal fiscal year 2026. This is from NMDOT. This is a new project. This is for New Mexico 28, Avenida de Mesilla, for the rapid flashing beacons. This is from, it will be HSIP, VSRU funds for $90,000 with the road funds of $10,000 for a total project of funds of $100,000. And this project will have an effect on performance measure 1, safety targets. We have LC 00620. This is also a new project for fiscal year 26. NMDOT is the lead agency again. This is for NM 320, Thorpe Road. This is again for the rapid flashing beacons. This is also the HSIP VSRU funds for $138,600 with a match of road funds for $15,400 for a total of $150,000. This project will have effects on performance measures 1, safety targets. We then have T900 450 for federal fiscal year 27. This is from NMDOT. This is for park and ride. This is the carbon reduction flex funds for $1,305,101 with a match from the road fund for $222,405. This project will not have any effect on current performance measures. We then have an adjustment to LC 00600 for federal fiscal year 26. This is for safe routes to school for the operations. This is just simply moving funds from federal fiscal year 27, the TAP Small Urban, to federal fiscal year 26. So it will be $299,040 with a local match of $50,000 $960. The project total will remain the same at $700,000. This project will have an effect on performance measures 1, safety targets. We then have LC 00382 for federal fiscal year 2028. This is NMDOT led project. This is for I-25 Engler interchange ramp construction. This is for the addition of interchange ramps and lighting and safety measures. This will be to move the project to federal fiscal year 28. This project will have an effect on performance measures 1, safety targets. We then have LC 00530 for federal fiscal year 26. This is also NMDOT. This is for the US 70 capacity study. This will be to update the title to US 70 Phase 1A study and update the limit as from milepost 150.7 and 161.7 to 150.4 and 163.9. This project will have an effect on performance measures 1, safety targets.
Excuse me for a second. This is Jim for the record. It says the project will have an effect on performance measures 2. Does it matter whether it's enhancing the performance measure or addressing or not addressing the performance measure as much? What is the effect?
So because it is a study, it is for performance measures 1, safety targets. Therefore, they're looking at safety measures for that corridor. Whereas in the next project you'll see will be for state of good repair, which is a second set of performance measures that's usually dealing with roadways and bridges and actual physical on-the-ground things.
So these will enhance safety.
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct. We have, next we have LC 00330 for federal fiscal year 27. This is the I-10 bridge replacement led by NMDOT. This one is to bring, to add $4,233,118 of bridge funds to federal fiscal year 26 and increase federal fiscal year 27 National Highway Performance Funds to $2,918,087 for a project total of $32,594,323, and this project will have an effect on performance measures 2, state of good repair. And lastly, we have another new project. This is from LC 00630. For federal fiscal year 24, this is the City of Las Cruces. This is for the Safe Streets for All grant. So the grant itself is for $400,000 with a local match of $100,000 for a project total of $500,000. And this project will have an effect on performance measures 1, safety targets. MPO staff is requesting BPAC recommend approval to the MPO Governing Board for this series of TIP amendments. I will now stand for any comments or questions.
Okay, I guess most of the questions are going to be directed to NMDOT. The Mesilla RRFB, that's where the mid-block crossing is. Is there a time frame for when that will be completed?
Mr. Chair, yes, the RFBs are the mid-block crossing there in front of the town hall, and we're looking to get that out next year.
Next calendar year? So by this
Yeah,
time next year, it should be in place?
FY 26, we'll start construction.
Okay. And the Thorpe Road is that's someplace closer to where, I'm not real familiar where that cross street would be, but is like across from where the church would be? Or is there someplace where there's particularly lots of activity?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, the New Mexico 320 rapid flashers are going to be in the vicinity of the post office, so near the intersection of Ledesma and the one further to the east, but closer to that intersection near the post office.
Okay. That one's more expensive than the Mesilla one. Is that just because you need to put in more electricity and other infrastructure.
A little bit more infrastructure available to us there in Mesilla, so a little bit more starting from the ground up on in Doña.
And the I-10 bridge replacement, which bridge are we talking about?
Mr. Chair, so the LC 00330 I-10 bridge replacement, it incorporates both Bouts interchange and Fair Acres. So from the 136.9 to, that's at Fair Acres, Bouts would be the 140.7.
Okay. So is there, it probably was on here, but what's the time frame for that?
We've got right now in our program, looks to be letting next month.
Okay, so soon. So that's going to mess up my ride to work to different places. That's where I go to the safe routes through the Bouts Stern area. But anyways, any other committee members with questions? Oh, I forgot to get a motion to put it on the table. So I have a motion to approve the tip amendments.
Ashley Curry, so moved.
Jim Wilcox, second.
We have a motion and a second to recommend approval of the tip amendments to the governing board. All in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed? And I'll try to do it right this time. I'll ask for a motion to approve the fiscal year 2025, 2026 Unified Planning Work Program.
Mr. Chair, do we not need to hear about it before we make a motion to approve it?
We need to, technically, according to Robert's rules, we need to place it on the table first. So we need the motion first.
Ashley Curry, I'll place it on the table.
And we have a second.
Albert Casilla, second.
Staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dominic Loya for MPO staff. So this is the annual updating of the Unified Planning Work Program amendments. So the UPWP, the Unified Planning Work Program, is a 2-year document that outlines transportation planning activities conducted by MPO staff. Both those staff will oversee, and those will staff will participate in without overseeing. The UPWP must be consistent with the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. The UPWP contains the budget and a list of work tasks to be accomplished by staff. The current UPWP is for 2025 and 2026 and was adopted by the Policy Board in 2024. UPWP went into effect on October 1st, 2024. So the MPO has received the notices to proceed for federal fiscal year 26. This is the second year of the UPWP, and the allocations are as follows. For the FHWA 112 funds will be $379,399.74 with a local match of $78,654.26. With a complete streets carve-out of $9,586. And then we have the FTA 5303 funds for $106,531 with a local match of $26,633. In federal fiscal year 26, the MPO is receiving $6,502 more in Section 112 funding, and $2,694 in FTA Section 5303 money as compared to federal fiscal year 25. The FHWA Section 112 complete streets set aside, which totals $9,586, is 100% reimbursed by the federal government. In federal fiscal year 26, MPO is in the second year of a statewide planning and research grant. So that's the SPR funds. Like federal fiscal year 2025, the grant is for $70,000. The local match for all funds in federal fiscal year 25 will be paid at the usual rate. The city of Las Cruces pays 65.5%. Doña County pays 33.5%, with the town of Mesilla paying 1%. In total, including the SPR grant, MPO, the MPO will receive $9,196 more in funding for federal fiscal year 26 as compared to 25. Staff requests that BPAC recommend approval of the 2025 to 2026 UPWP amendments to the governing board. I will now stand for any comments or questions.
Any committee members with questions? So I'll call for the vote. All in favor of recommending this to the governing board, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes. We're on to discussion items. Calendar year 2026 safety targets presentation.
Ms. Katarina Pervinga will be presenting this, Mr. Chair.
There we go. Good evening. So this is the Mesilla Valley MPO 2026 Safety Performance Measures, also known as Safety Performance Targets. 23 CFR 490 requires each MPO to set performance measures for safety. Last time we did this was last year in 24. The Mesilla Valley MPO adopted performance measures for calendar year 2025. The safety performance measures must be adopted annually. So the safety performance measure requires that measures or targets be adopted in the following areas: number of fatalities, number of serious injuries, rate of fatalities per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, or VMT, rate of serious injuries per 100 million VMT, and number of non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries. The New Mexico Department of Transportation, NMDOT, has released its proposed metrics for 2026, and this is the presentation for that. So, overview of Performance 1 measures. These are considered common measures, the first three: number of fatalities, number of serious injuries, and the fatality rates per 100 million vehicle miles traveled. They're usually identical to the targets established in the Highway Safety Plan, or HSP, produced by the NMDOT Traffic Safety Division. However, earlier this year on July 12, 2025, the FHWA issued the Common Measures Safety Target Waiver for calendar year 2026. This allows the common measure targets for the Highway Safety Improvement Program, HSIP, and the state's Highway Safety Plan, HSP, to be different. And this is the quote from that itself. States have been provided flexibility in establishing identical safety performance targets for the three common measures: the number of fatalities, the rate of fatalities, and the number of serious injuries, between the HSIP and the state's Highway Safety Plan, HSP, by waiving the requirement under 23 CFR 490.209, Section A1. So in the performance measures report that we received, so target zero. So NMDOT is working towards the goal of 0 deaths and serious injuries on New Mexico's roads by 2050. That's what target zero is. The 2026 chart, why were they not changed? Well, that's because target zero initiative is still in progress. NMDOT kept the 2026 HSIP safety targets the same as 2025. So future targets will be adjusted as progress is made toward reducing crashes and serious injuries. So not all targets need to be set this year. Well, the HSP is already in its final year of a 3-year planning cycle. So 2026 safety goals for crash reductions were already set under the HSP. This year, only the HSIP targets needed updates. And then with stakeholders, fewer agencies were involved this year because most targets were already set. The usual annual crash data review meeting was not held for 2026. A larger stakeholder process is planned in 2027, when all safety targets will be revisited and crash data will be fully reviewed. So, this year's effort. So this is from the letter we got. August 1st, 2025, draft safety target methodology and numbers were sent to MPOs and key state and federal partners for review. August 25th of this year, final 2025 HSIP report with the safety targets was submitted to the Federal Highway Administration. February 28th of next year, That's when we have to adopt the state safety targets, or we set our own measurable targets, but we usually adopt the state safety targets. So every year, the Federal Highway Administration reviews on how each state is performing on its Highway Safety Improvement Program safety targets. For New Mexico, the 2025 Safety Performance Assessment was issued on May 19, 2025. This assessment looks at how the state performed on its 2023 safety targets, such as fatalities and serious injuries. If the state did not meet its targets, penalties or funding restrictions would apply in the federal fiscal year 2026. But not immediately. So all of the crash data that are going to be in this, that we're going to be discussing is all from 2023. And so we have the, so we have the performance measures, the main three, and then we have the other ones that we include, the rate of serious injuries and the number of non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries. So that's pedestrian, cyclists. We have the 2019-23 target that were set, and then we have the, so over here we have the baseline, and over here, and this was new that they released this year. So where are the targets met? So for number of fatalities and rate of fatalities, the targets were met. However, the number of serious injuries, the rate of serious injuries, and the number of non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries were not met. So the following data, their methodologies, and it's what they've done in the past, and we kind of mirror that when we look at our data separately in our own report, but looking at the methodology. So they use it basically for the projections. They use the linear forecast function in Excel, basing it off of the 6 years of actual crash data, and then that's how they get the projected values for 2025 and 2026. The preliminary annual VMT for 2024 was provided by the Data Management Bureau of the NMDOT Planning Division. VMT from 2019-2024, excluding 2020, was used to calculate projected VMT values for 25 and 26. Crash data for 2024 is primarily and was provided by UNM. So when they do the projections and the calculations, they leave out 2020 just because it was such, just because that year is such an outlier. But everything else is based on the years before that and after that. So the following slides show the linear forecast projections, the 5-year moving average, and the calendar year 2026 targets. These graphs are provided to show the calendar year 26 targets in a relationship to the standard methodology for setting targets. The total fatalities and rate of fatalities show achievable targets. The serious injuries, rate of serious injuries, and non-motorized targets show opportunity for improvement. So for these are the basically the 2026 target for total fatalities. The 5-year moving average is the red line. The actual fatalities is the black line. And then these are the projections. So the target set for 2026, it will be 445 fatalities. The 2026 target for serious injuries, again, same thing. It is set in 2026 for 1,010. The 2026 target rate of fatalities, the rate for 2026, the target will be at 1.644. And the 2026 target for rate of serious injuries will be set, the target will be set at 3.8. And then the target for 2026 for number of non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries, that target will be set at 200. The purpose of the performance standard from the state of New Mexico in accordance with federal regulations is to is to monitor crashes of motorized vehicles, bicycles, and pedestrians, paying attention to fatalities and serious injuries. The safety performance measure mandate by Congress has increased awareness and dialogue about safety issues around the country. The measures have motivated jurisdictions to seek solutions to underlying factors of crashes. The trend lines are indicators of very complex factors that cause crashes. These factors are explored further in the 2023 NMDOT Annual Safety Report. So the Mesilla Valley MPO Annual Safety Report is another document that developed from the Safety Performance Measure Requirement, MPO. So we're going to be releasing that fairly soon. And on our webpage, it will be, so in the core documents, we do have a tab for that, and it will be over here once we do post it. The state and the Mesilla Valley MPO are committed to reduce fatalities and serious injuries. I will now stand for comments or questions.
Okay, I guess one thing I noticed where on the table where you showed that you met targets and didn't meet targets, the ones that didn't meet targets were happening outside of the vehicle. So that's, to me, makes me think that that's maybe caused by the larger vehicles that we have on the roadways now. If you're inside a vehicle, you're safer, but if you're outside, you're less safe. And that also seems like something that we can't control through design or other types of activities, that this is really a federal problem and how they should be changing how vehicles are. You know, maybe they'd have to come up with some policy. I guess the obvious one is to charge an extra $200 for every vehicle larger than a certain size or something. But is that a fair assessment, do you think? Or a possible assessment?
It could be an assessment, but I'm honestly not sure. This is just looking at the numbers and different trends, because this is all across the state. So we're talking about not just metropolitan areas, but majority of the state is rural. And each area does have different factors that do occur. You know, it depends on the population, it depends on the driving behavior. And I mean, yeah, the serious injuries that we have, because we have our own serious injuries that occur in our area, and different factors that go into that. And then it could be the vehicle, it could be behavior, it could be, depends on each situation as it is. But yeah, honestly, it could be an assessment, but I don't think that's something to really stand on.
Yeah, because this also seems to be like a national trend too. We have somebody from the audience that would come up and
yes.
identify yourself. And yes,
Yes.
please. You have to get on the record.
Curses. Hi, my name is Allison. I'm with the NMDOT Planning Division. I don't work directly with this data, so I don't know how kind of detailed some of it comes down to. I know it can be very varied because it's based on police reports, and there's not really a standard collection process. I see the marshal nodding across the state and then amongst the tribes, the counties, municipalities, but I will get with the data management folks and our highway safety team to see what kind of detail they can provide. And if you want to maybe look at if there are patterns like about car sizes, I know things that they definitely look at are distracted driving, I guess intoxication. We're seeing a big rise in cannabis-caused car crashes over the last couple of years. But in terms of vehicle size, I'm not sure if that's data that's being collected at the moment. So I'm happy to look into that and we can get back to you.
Okay. And then on the target numbers, on some of the charts, it seems like it's lower and then than the 5-year average and others higher. Is that?
And this was in the report. So the fatalities and the rate of fatalities were showing like achievable targets, and whereas the serious injuries, the rates, and the non-motorized, and it says it's showing opportunity for improvement. So the targets were, targets were set at, so for example, wait. So what I've noticed is that, so we see like an increase in the projections, and then they set the target a little bit lower. And then when the projections are showing maintainment and no increase, then they'll set the target at the 2026 projection. So either they want to show, either they're going to show maintaining those levels because there's no, it's not showing an increase, or if it does show an increase, they're setting the targets below what it's projected.
Okay. Anybody else have questions?
Yeah, Jim Wilcox for the record. I have two things. Mr. Chair, in response to your comment about larger vehicles, it's been years since I've looked at it, but from what I remember, the minimum increase in chance of fatality for a truck, SUV or a truck hitting a pedestrian is approximately 30% more because the truck has a frontal area that impacts the upper body of the pedestrian where the organs are. And there's been significant advancement in motor vehicles. I don't know about trucks. I don't think they've really changed in motor vehicles where they have lowered the front area of the car so that it strikes the person in the extremities like the legs, and then they fly up over the hood and out of the way, hopefully not into the oncoming traffic. But the major problem is that with trucks, it hits the area where the vital organs are. So there's that increase. And this, of course, the second increase is due to speed, and it's a nonlinear function. So if you double the speed from, well, just go up from 25 miles per hour to, say, 40 miles per hour, 35, if you have a unit of one fatality, when you go up to like 30 or 35 miles an hour, you end up with about 2.5 or 3 fatalities. So it's a nonlinear function as opposed to the speed. That's why it's really important for neighborhoods to keep the speed limit down to 25 miles per hour, and why traffic calming works so well. On the other question is, how do we collect the data that underlies these fatalities, injuries? Where's the data come from? What's the process?
What was your first question? I'm sorry.
I didn't have a first question.
Okay.
I was making a statement about
Okay.
the trucks that was
Okay.
asked
I
earlier.
was just making sure.
Yeah, sorry. So,
So the second question, your question. So law enforcement, when a crash does occur, law enforcement fills out a crash report, and it is submitted through tracks. We've talked about that before, and I believe this, the entire state does utilize it, and they send it to, it gets sent to, mostly gets processed by UNM. And so UNM will take the crash data, organize it all, and it's 3 different levels. They organize it by either it's crash level data, then there's vehicular level data, and then there's passenger or driver level data, occupant level data. And so these are all based on the reports that were created by law enforcement agencies.
okay, I'm glad that you had that answer. That's great. I think a key component of that is that it's generated by law enforcement. So that means law enforcement has to have been called and be aware of the actual incident. And unfortunately, sometimes we have hit and runs. We had one down on Melendres where somebody ran through a few yards and then took off. And I don't know, I don't think that, I can't tell you, but in that case, if the homeowners didn't report it to the police, it would not have been registered as any sort of incident. Also, you have some people who don't want to report maybe two drivers who have a collision. They don't want to report that it happened, and they settle it themselves, because if they bring in the the police and they have insurance claims, they have insurance problems. So there's a pressure not to report some incidents, at least with motorists. So what we're getting is the reports from the police. It does not necessarily mean that that is the actual amount that's happening out there. And I can't really speculate what the actual amount is, but it's probably more than what the police reports indicate.
Yep, that is correct.
So those would be property damage crashes and wouldn't appear in this report in any case.
Not in the safety targets. It is mentioned in the next presentation that I have.
Okay. And on the reporting, when there's a crash that law enforcement's responding to, they fill out the uniform crash report. With automated agencies, they use tracks. So it goes directly into the computerized system, goes directly to UNM. For other agencies, they fill out the paperwork and the paperwork gets sent to UNM, and then UNM has to go through and sanitize it essentially, or do. There's that extra step that can have a 2 to 6 month delay probably. At the safety summit, they gave us some numbers that I don't remember quite properly offhand, but I don't remember the percentage of agencies that actually use tracks currently, but of the agencies that do use tracks, it's about 75% of what's reported. So it's the smaller agencies that will not have tracks that goes through all that. So for the most part, things get sent directly to UNM, but until you have all the data, you can't really draw any conclusions. So it would be good if the state was listening, if the legislators were listening, if they funded agencies to, and then at some point mandated tracks, that would be helpful for this process. And also, Doña County, the 3 agencies, Mesilla, Las Cruces, City of Las Cruces, and Doña Sheriff's Department, they all use tracks. So we're here. I don't know about in the south part of the county.
Mr. Chair, so DASO, sheriffs do use tracks. Within the MPO planned area, all the law enforcement agencies that report and submit crash reports, they all do use tracks. So
Right.
it'd be,
The only thing left would be like Hatch, outside of our MPO, Hatch, Anthony, and Sunland Park, I think are probably the other ones that
that would
may
be
or may
their,
not, that have police departments, and NMSU too probably has to.
and MSU also has it as well. And that would be their local agencies and state, and if they're within Doña, it would be DASO.
Anybody else have anything?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Longino Bustillos, Doña. I just had a quick question. The data that comes from UNM, I know that they already have 2024 fatality data out there. Is there a certain time, or are you pulling that constantly? Because I've noticed some changes in their numbers as time goes on. So do you just go access at 1 year, one time, or are you constantly looking for updates on it?
So when they do, when UNM does, when UNM does publish the crash data for the new year, we will send in the request to get that data, and then we start working on the next annual safety report. And so it's just whatever that they've published. It's not so whatever is published, that's already been updated according to them and what data that they have received from law enforcement agencies. So that's what we work with. And I do understand that they sometimes release it like not a little bit before 2 years, but just for work's sake and just for keeping it organized, we do the 2 years behind. So so because it's 2025, we're going to be looking at 2023 data, and then next year in 2026, we're going to be looking at the 2024 data.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And next we have discussion item, the annual safety report.
Okay, so this is going to be the presentation for the Mesilla Valley MPO 2025 Annual Safety Report. So this presentation outlines the 2025 Annual Safety Report. It focuses on finding any trends or correlations that may be present in traffic crash data within our planned area. So our planned area is the northern boundary is just above Radium Springs, and then as south as Barino, or where Gadsden High School is, and then as far east as San Agustin Pass, and as far west as the airport. So within our planned area, there were a total of 4,154 total crashes. In those crashes, 10,437 people were involved. 44 crashes that were serious injury crashes resulted in 51 serious injuries. We had 19 fatal crashes. Of those fatal crashes, we had 19 fatalities. And then of all the 65 non-motorized crashes, of those, there were 8 fatalities, and then there were 15 serious injuries in those 65 non-motorized crashes. So looking at the total crashes, so after we can see COVID is an outlier, there is a strong decrease due to lack of traffic and lower traffic volume. But since then, there has been a gradual recovery. These totals show a rebound toward pre-pandemic levels as traffic volumes returned. So for 2023, there is a new, basically the crashes rose up to 4,154, which since graphing this since 2015, that is the highest number of crashes that we've had or that we've seen in our area. So in the report, there is a page where we did a standard deviation analysis with GIS. And then when we did that, we took the highest standard deviation and just mapped that out. So we muted the rest of them and just looked at the extremes because there are so many areas of crashes. And so with the exception of 2015, the rest of them were 2.5 standard deviations above the norm. And so we have everything mapped out. And it does show in the data that majority of crashes, high crash frequency areas, occur on arterials and major collectors mostly. So in the report, because since 2020, we've moved to what's called an FHE analysis. That's the first harmful event analysis. And so we take that, and it's been since 2020 up to now, and they continue to do so when they give us the data. So we have the first harmful analysis categories, and then we have it separated out by the severity of the crash. So about 70.8% of all the crashes, 4,154, were property damage only crashes. And then 28.7% of all those crashes resulted in an injury that could be class A, B, or C. And then 0.5% of all those crashes resulted as a fatal crash. In the report, we also look at hit and run crashes. So this is the percent hit and run crashes of the total crashes that occurred that year. So so we are seeing an increase in hit and run crashes throughout our area. 2021, 2022 both show 21.4%. There was a slight decrease in 2023, down to 19% of all the crashes being hit and runs. So there is an upward trend, but it is slightly decreasing. Oh, sorry. So the peak around 2021, 2022, nearly 1 in 5 crashes involving a hit and run. And then that I just went over. Okay. So in the report, we also have the first harmful events crashes, first harmful events mapped out throughout our area. There's collision of animal, collision with a fixed object, collision with a motor vehicle, collision with other non-fixed object, collision with a person, and then no collision, so usually like a rollover or something like that. So if you can see in the map, there's a majority of them are collision with a motor vehicle. So looking at the timing of total crashes, we did something a little different this year. Last year, we graphed it all out, charted it all out, where we look at the number of crashes that occur on each day, and then the number of crashes that occur on each different hour throughout the day. And we have our totals both for the hours and for the days. And then we look at this and we kind of format it so it shows where crashes occur the most, or when, not where, when they occur the most. And looking at this, so Monday through Friday, mostly around lunchtime, and then in the afternoon is when crashes start to increase. A second thing we did, so the new thing we did this year, was we're looking at the drug and alcohol involved crash, and that's not supposed to say fatal crashes, it's supposed to be all crashes. And so what we did was we took all the crashes that involved drugs, that also involved alcohol, and then we looked at what time they occurred, and it gave us, so we have midnight here, and then all the way to basically 11 p.m. hour here. And there was a fairly large cluster that occurs middle of the night, evening, early in the night. So basically nighttime hours are when drug and alcohol involved crashes are mostly occurring. In the report, we also have we charted out how when crashes occur. So afternoon from 12 to 5 was the highest, which correlates with this graph or with this chart. You have higher volumes of traffic that are out on the roads. Mornings were the second highest. You have people commuting a lot. And then afternoon again, or in the evening, I'm sorry, between 5 and 9 o'clock p.m., again, commuting. And then nighttime had the lowest amount of crashes. So looking at drug and alcohol crashes of the total drug and alcohol involved crashes, alcohol is more present than drugs, and then we also looked at crashes that involve both drugs and alcohol, but there was a slight increase from 2022 to 2023, and then alcohol remained there was a spike from 21 to 22, and there's a tiny decrease, but it pretty much leveled out. So using that standard deviation analysis tool, we took out all of the alcohol involved crashes and did the same thing. And what we do is we basically create tessellation tiles, and then we kind of lower the make it a little more transparent. And then as we overlay each year on top of each other, the more solid the color is, that's where you have basically a cluster of where alcohol involved crashes are occurring. And so so main areas when we did this were Main and Elks. Downtown Las Cruces had several areas around it, along Missouri. And then there was Loman and Telshore I-25 area, kind of on the bridge. Other parts were along El Paseo, Espina, and Solano. And another area was Union and Maine. So when we did that, we did the same thing. We applied the same thing with the drug-involved crashes, just to see if there was any correlation. And many of these areas did kind of overlap with the alcohol-involved crashes. And then we decided to go ahead and overlay all of them together. And you can kind of see where the colors kind of begin to solidify, and it shows certain pockets where you have drug-involved crashes and alcohol, or drug-involved crashes and alcohol-involved crashes that are occurring between the years of 2018 and 2023. So it was fairly interesting to see the different areas that overlapped. So this was Elks and Maine area. You can see the gray hexagons are the drug related and then drug involved, and then the pink are alcohol involved. They had a lot of overlap here. Downtown Las Cruces was another area of concern that showed a lot of overlap. This one is Idaho by Solano and Idaho along El Paseo and Foster and this area. And so there was a fairly large overlap here. This is over by Union and I-10 and Maine. There was some overlap with drug and alcohol involved crashes. And then we also looked at the lighting of the crashes, and like before, majority of them happened during the day, so we are going to have a lot of crashes that occur in daylight. And then you have dark but lighted areas, and you have dark non-lighted areas. So looking at the fatal crashes, and this is for, again, within our planned area. So fatal crashes did increase from 17 to 19 from 22 to 2023. Looking at projections, it's showing, it's showing a slight increase in both the 5-year moving average and in the numbers. And then, of course, the rate of fatalities does mirror the actual number. So again, showing slight increase in the 5-year moving average and the fatality rate. We went ahead and took our fatality rates, and then we compared it to the states. So we have basically in light green are all of the Mesilla Valley MPO's fatality rates, and then in dark green is the NMDOT, their fatality rates across the state. In red, we have our 5-year moving average, and while for now we are below the state's fatality rate, projections are showing we might meet it and possibly go above, but these are the projections based on what they're showing based on the trends that are happening here. So in the report, we organized it a little differently. I know last year we didn't have this portion. This is a new thing that we're doing. So in the report, I'm not going to be going over all of the fatalities like I did last year, but we will focus on some of the pedestrian and cyclist fatalities. So the setup in our report, we do have a map on there, and all of the fatalities are numbered, and they're numbered based on chronological order. So we have number 1 being in January, number 12 being in December. So they're all numbered on the map, so you can see what location that happened. We also decided to classify them based on the travel mode of the deceased. And so we have motorcycle, passenger car, cyclist, pedestrian, and then there's a pickup and an SUV. So the first two, we basically organized it all into a chart. So we have basically the travel mode of the deceased. So we have the driver, and it was a pickup truck. There's the date, and then what hour it occurred. And then we start listing all of the different factors that were involved in that crash. And in the last two columns, or last column, is the law enforcement assessment. And this is all from the crash report data that we received from UNM. Specifically, a lot of these are from the vehicular level data. That's just a little more specific than the crash level data. And let's see, there's another one where it might be confusing, but if I explain it. So one of the deceased was a passenger in a vehicle. And so here it says improper driving other vehicles. So the passenger in one vehicle did pass away, and then because the other driver was the one that was driving improperly. And then so when it says, law enforcement assessment says it was a driver error, and then if it says other vehicle, that's what that means. And then we did the same thing for motorcyclists, same thing. And then for cyclists and pedestrians. So cyclists, and then looking at the numbers. So for cyclists, because they're in chronological order, so we have 4, crash number 4, or fatality 4, 14, 15, 17, and 19. And then, so if you go back to the map, that's what they're correlated with. So that's what the numbers are based on in the list. So with the pedestrians, we did look at all of the factors, and again, this is based on the law enforcement assessment in their crash report. One thing we noticed was in 2023, the pedestrians, the law enforcement said it was pedestrian error for all 5 And that was based on the vehicular level data. And so we do have different factors. So Picacho near I-10, or sorry, near 17th. And then we also put, was it an intersection or not an intersection? We put the direction the car was going, any other, where was the pedestrian at the time, and then the assessment. We have, let's see. So then we also have, so for the cyclists, we looked at cyclists, again, fatality number 6, 7, and 8. And again, those are based on the map that we have, so that's what the numbers are for. And same thing, trying to put the direction of the location and then the direction of both parties involved in the crash. And basically anything that was on that vehicular level data. And then, of course, the law enforcement assessment. 2 of the cyclists were, it was no bicycle error. And then 1, it was bicycle error. So, and then that's all in the report. And then looking at the timing of the fatal crashes, we did the same thing where we looked at the time, the day of when these occurred. Let's see. Sorry. No, I didn't do that. So it's kind of scattered throughout, but you do see them happening more in the evening. And you also have some that happen in the early morning hours. Looking at the drug and alcohol involved fatal crashes, there were basically, each bar is 1 fatality. That's just how it that's how it's graphed out. So we do have basically 1 a.m., and then we have 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and then the other one that involved drug and alcohol was at 9 p.m. So a lot of these are occurring at night, early in the morning, or in the evening. And then we graphed out the basically when majority of the fatalities are happening in the evening, and then daylight and nighttime were about the same, and then early morning between 4 a.m. and noon was the lowest. Looking at drug and alcohol involved fatal crashes. So we did see an increase from 2020 to 2022, and then there was a slight decreasing trend in all of these in 2023, but they are still present in the fatal crashes. So same thing with this. So we did roughly about the same thing with the serious injuries. But the trends, though, for the serious injuries, unlike the fatalities, are decreasing, and the 5-year moving average and the projections are showing a decrease. So that was the number of the serious injuries, and then we also have the rate of the serious injuries that mirrors that. So we are seeing a decreasing trend in the projections as well. In the serious injury crashes, we use the first harmful event and the first harmful event analysis to map this out and kind of show where different areas were. We did have collision with motor vehicle, like I stated, with the overall crash trends. It showed collision with the motor vehicle was the most, and you see a lot in central Las Cruces, and it does kind of make sense because we do have a lot of traffic. That's where your population is densely populated. You do have high traffic count volumes throughout this area just because it is a centralized location. And so like I said before, first harmful event analysis. So we have the collisions with a fixed object and then the different kinds of objects, and then collision with cyclists, pedestrians, and then the non-collisions. So that's all mapped out in the report. So first harmful event analysis, the highest one, like I said, collision with a motor vehicle for serious injuries. In serious injuries, collision with the person was second, followed by collision with a fixed object, and then non-collision. So something like a rollover for serious injuries. And we did the same thing where we graphed it out. So crashes were most common at night. So they were at night, so between 9 p.m. and 4 a.m. There were 16 crashes, And then during the evening, there were 14 crashes, and these are just the serious injuries. The afternoon, there were 10 crashes, and the morning only had 8 crashes, resulting in serious injuries. Hourly peaks occurred at 1 a.m., so so looking at the peaks of each hour, we had 1 a.m., that was 5 crashes, and then we have 5 to 6 p.m., 7 crashes, and then 11 p.m., we had 3 crashes. So looking at some of the hours that had higher numbers than others, or higher serious injury crashes was interesting. Crashes were spread across all days of the week. Tuesday had the most at 9 crashes. Drug and alcohol-involved crashes did cluster basically overnight, so between 1 and 4 a.m. So these are, these are 2 alcohol drug-involved crashes resulting in a serious injury, and then we did have some in the evening. And again, just like fatalities and just like the overall crash trend, alcohol is the most present in the drug and alcohol-involved serious injury crashes. It is showing, we did see a slight decrease in the number of crashes and serious injury involving alcohol. However, we did see an increase in drug-involved crashes and a slight increase in where both drugs and alcohol were involved in the crash from 2022 to 2023. So pedestrian-involved crashes, and just like last year, we separated out the pedestrian and the cyclist crashes because they do show different trends. In this graph, we do have the black lines, so we separated out. We have the black bars representing pedestrian serious injury, and then the red bars are the fatalities. And so we did also include the projections from 24 to 26. So pedestrian fatalities have remained consistently high since 2019 compared to the earlier years in this graph, ranging from 4 to 8 deaths annually. So basically with 8 in 2019, it did drop a little, but then it started to increase again. Well, I mean, that was during 2020, but if we don't look at 2020 and look at the other ones, it does drop a little bit, but then it stays fairly consistent in 5 or 6. Pedestrian serious injuries did fluctuate a lot more. 2023 had the highest so far, based on our previous year's data, at 13 pedestrian serious injuries, which is the highest in our data set. Projections show fatality stabilizing, so it's showing that these are increasing but staying the same. And then the serious injuries drop, but then it's showing an increase as well. So we looked at the location of where pedestrian-involved crashes were. 63% of pedestrian crashes occurred outside of intersections. And I mean, because it shows us that, mid-block crossing or areas without designated crosswalks are the most dangerous for pedestrians. And this data does show that. We did have 28% occur in a 4-way intersection. Makes sense because we do have so many conflicts of interest. You have so much traffic that's turning and whatnot. And then you have your T intersection. 9% of the pedestrian-involved crashes occurred in that. And we do have it mapped out in the report. It's mapped out, and it's a 3-layer map. So we took the pedestrian-involved areas, and we laid that on the map, so that's what the red tessellations are, or the red hexagons are. And then we mapped out by the intersection type, to kind of see, okay, where are these mostly occurring? And then we also included the bike lane map, so looking at bike lanes and multi-use paths to see if there's any correlation, or just to see in relation where those were. High pedestrian crashes, so this is Loman, and this is in 2023 pedestrian involved. So this is Loman right before it splits into Loman and Amador, Loman and Walnut. We had basically all 4 of these in this area were not in an intersection. So that was one area of concern. Another one is West Picacho, and this is actually right over there, Motel, and then we have 17th, and basically along here. There does tend to be a lot of pedestrians. Two of these I can see, or several of these were not at an intersection. There are some that were at an intersection. Another one was Traverse and Missouri. This one had multiple pedestrian-involved crashes in one area. So that was another one that was interesting. So those are the main areas that we saw. Timing them out, so there were a total of 46 pedestrian-involved crashes that occurred in 2023. They were most frequent in the afternoon between 12 and 5, with 15 crashes followed by the evening 5 to 9 at 11 crashes. Nighttime, so between 9 p.m. and 4 a.m., there were 9 crashes, while morning hours had the fewest at 7 crashes. And then looking at the drug and alcohol-involved fatal crashes, basically we had one that occurred at 6 a.m., then 5 p.m., and then 2 that occurred at 10 p.m. So looking at drug and alcohol-involved crashes, again with pedestrian-involved crashes. So I know it's hard to see the red line, that's why I put labels on there. So alcohol involvement has historically been the most significant factor in crashes in general, peaking in 2017 with 8 crashes and showing continued presence through 2023. So basically, when 21, the alcohol and drug involved crashes were the same. So 2, and this is pedestrian involved only. So 2, 4, and 3. So this is 2 lines in 1. Drug involvement appears less frequent, but has been steadily present since 2018, typically at 2 to 4 crashes per year. The combined drug and alcohol involved crashes increased after 2020, but then, increased in 2020 to 2021, peaking, and then, with 2 crashes, and then it did decrease in 22, but then it remained the same from 2022 to 2023.
Mr. Chair, Ms. Paringi, can
Yes.
I ask a quick question? When you're talking about pedestrian-involved crashes, are these fatalities, fatal crashes, or
Some-
just any crashes involving pedestrians?
These are all of the pedestrian-involved crashes. So yes, it's also the fatalities that occurred, the serious injuries that occurred, and then the ones that were with property damage. But then the serious injuries are only the Class A injuries, not Class B or C.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so pedestrian crashes are concentrated and, let me explain this. So we did kind of the same thing with the same analysis and then overlaying the different layers. And this is only on the pedestrian-involved crashes. So from 2015 to 2023, you can see where some areas do have some solid red. Solid red means from 2015 to 2023, pedestrian-involved crashes are happening there fairly frequently. Pedestrian crashes are concentrated along major arterials in central and western Las Cruces, particularly Loman Avenue, Solano Drive, University Avenue, and Main Street. Some other hotspots were along Valley, and I put Loman again, and Main, where pedestrian exposure to high-speed traffic creates elevated risks. Downtown and NMSU University, that's kind of they're going to emerge as high crash zones. And when you look at the pedestrian traffic that is around there, it does it reflects higher pedestrian activity. And then we have our cyclist data. Did the same thing. So serious injuries were highest 2015, 2016, and then they did decline. The red bars are cycling fatalities. They started to emerge later. So we had 2019 and then 2022, 23, and so on. And then the projections are here. Cyclist safety trends show a shift from injuries toward fatalities, with serious injuries declining, but deaths, fatalities are starting to increase and hold steady.
Excuse me for a second. This is Jim Wilcox. If more people are dying, doesn't that mean you'd have fewer people with serious injuries? I mean, they died, so you'd have somebody who would have been a serious injury dies, so now they're not in the serious injury category.
This is just based on the data that we receive from UNM, that they receive from the crash reports that that are created by law enforcement.
Okay, I was looking at it more in a, how one way that serious injuries could go down if fatalities go up. Thank you.
So same thing with the cyclists. We did look at 2023 pedocyclists involved crashes. There were not as many as the pedestrian involved crashes. However, there were some present. One area in concern that we noticed was along Loman Avenue and then along, this is, I think, Idaho. Yeah, this is Solano and El Paseo. So there were pedocyclists involved crashes kind of very close to each other. So those were two areas of concern. We did the same thing with the timing of and sorry, I know it says serious injury. It's supposed to say cyclists involved crashes. I will go back and change that. So looking at this, the morning did show very high numbers. So the morning period from 4 a.m. to 12 p.m. saw the most crashes with a strong concentration between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m., likely aligning with commute hours when cyclists and vehicles both share the road in higher volumes. The afternoon and evenings all still remain risky. 11 crashes occurred in the afternoon, so between 12 and 5. 8 crashes occurred in the evening between 5 and 9. Those periods kind of correspond with school dismissal, work commuting, and also when people use recreational cycling at those times. In the report, we did the same thing where we overlaid the data from 2018 to 2023 just to show, and then we also put the bike lane map over it to see what kind of patterns or trends we could see. So anything that's more of a solid blue, that would be where cyclists, there tends to be a crash involving a cyclist more often than other areas. And so like I said before, so this was the legend and it's in the report. So 23, 22, 21, 2020, 2019, 2018, so same thing. And then, like I said, it's on the map. Some areas of concern, this was Loman and Walnut. This area, Loman, Walnut area, and this is again 2018, 2023. So this seems to be an area of concern for cyclists. This was further west on Loman. This was, sorry. This is Solano, and this is going to be Espina. So there were quite a few, so pedal cyclists involved crashes do seem to be occurring fairly frequently in this area.
Excuse me for a second, Jim Wilcox for the record. Do we have cyclists travel data? In other words, if there was more incidents of crashes or injuries for cyclists at a certain area, can we say that based on total number of cyclists that are using it? Do we know, is it just caused by more cyclists in the area, or do we have any way to reference that?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Wilcox, again, like I said, this is all data that we get from UNM. And so when we do get the data, it's all in an Excel sheet. And so we apply a filter, and where it says pedocyclist involved crash, was there a pedocyclist involved? So pedocyclist, and then in the column, it'll say whether not involved or involved.
Okay.
And so what we do is we take that, basically create the filter on that top line, and then we filter out. So we only look at the pedocyclists involved crashes. And we did that for each and every year. And then applying that, that standard deviation analysis, overlaying the data on top of each other. So like I said before, the more solid the color is, that's where we're seeing it's going to be an area where there are bicyclists involved, crashes in that particular area.
Mr. Chair, do we have data on the amount of cyclists traversing different sections of the city? Has there been a bike count?
Velocrucis did an informal one, but that's about all. There's no, as far as I know, there's nothing systematically being done for bike counts.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Wilcox, Dominic Loy for MPO staff. We have never been able to actually categorize how many cyclists are using a specific area. Part of it is due to cost. One of the main ways to do it is put a camera up and see, but it does cost money then to have that processed. As well as we've tried with the infrared beams before, but we've also found out in those when you use them, if the beam goes too far, it's a car door, it will count it as a cyclist. So there's no accurate way of reflecting how many cyclists are using a specific area right now.
One of the techniques used in some cities is to train volunteers on, how to accurately count a cyclist going past a certain location, and then on like a Saturday afternoon or Monday noon or during commute times, they field these people who go and they have a sheet of paper and then they actually count. But it does take resources, and you have to get the volunteers to do it. You got to do the training, and that is something that a active transportation coordinator would generally take on as a job. Of course, we haven't had one, and I have an update on that later. Thank you.
Okay. Another area of concern regarding the pedocyclists involved crashes. This was Alameda and Doña Road. You see, notice how sorry, lost my train of thought. Notice how the color is more solid in this area. This was concerning. This is West Picacho, over by West Picacho and Valley was another hot spot for pedocyclists involved crashes. This one is along Idaho and basically west of Solano. This was another area of concern. University was another hot spot for pedocyclists involved crashes, specifically where University and El Paseo meet. There are some other areas on campus that did kind of pop up, but this one was a bit darker than that one. But yeah, so University and El Paseo has a lot of pedocyclists involved crashes from 2018 to 2023. So looking at pedocyclists involved crashes and drug and alcohol involved crashes, we did see, from 2015 to 2016, we saw an increase. It was 2, and then it dropped. Everything dropped from 2017 to 2019. Of the cyclists involved crashes, there were no alcohol or drug involved crashes. And then in 2021, we had a spike again for both drug and alcohol, alcohol involved crashes and then drug involved crashes. The drug and alcohol both involved crashes did remain flat at 0. And then in 2023 or 2021, after 21 to 22, they both dropped. But then drug involved crashes from 22 to 23 remained out. We did have 1. And then the alcohol involved crashes did decrease in 2023. And I will now stand for comments and questions.
Okay, thank you for that. Downtown was called out as a problem area. The city is doing an update of the downtown master plan right now. Have you talked with the city staff or with the planners, the consultants there, to make them aware of your findings here so that maybe their design efforts can take into account anything that you might point out?
Mr. Chair, Dominic Lloyd for MPO staff. We were not aware that they were actually updating the downtown master plan. We will definitely talk with the City of Las Cruces planners on that. We have not been asked for any data at this point either. So we will get back to you on that.
Okay, yeah,
And
the
talk with them.
update, the consultants are here this week. They had a initial meeting, public meeting yesterday. They're doing more stakeholder meetings. Actually, neighborhood stakeholders is a meeting I missed today because I'm here. And tomorrow from 10 to 11, they're having a public open house type meeting. And then they'll have their draft presentation on Friday night at 6 o'clock. It's all happening at Amador Live. Maybe call David Weir. He's the city staff person that's in charge of the master plan update. So the information that you gather is very valuable, and input into that process is needed, I think.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we will get in contact with Mr. Weir.
Anybody else have questions?
Mr. Chair, you did say that was at Amador Live, correct?
Amador Live, yeah.
Just want to make sure. Thank you.
Sergeant Lourdes Hernandez with Tana Mesilla. Just to kind of clarify, you could also get data information from Mesilla Valley Regional Dispatch, because a lot of times calls that are called in as crashes without injuries, and if the two parties can exchange information, then we don't always do what's called the uniform crash report. So, but that'll be logged with dispatch. So you could get that data of those calls that were called in, but not a crash report was done.
Okay.
So that would be another resource for you to use. And as far as for small departments, what they do, they mail them at the end of the month, because that's what we were doing for a while until we got tracks. So they're updated monthly.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Jim Wilcox for the record. When I saw the percent of, or the amount of hit and run, it looked to me like it's been about a 20 to 25% increase. Is that what you remember seeing? It's way back there.
Way back there. There. So in the percentage, I'm seeing the lowest percentage was 13.6. That was in 2019. I'm looking right here. And then, I'm sorry, 13.3% in 2018. And then the highest were 2021, 2022 at 21.4%.
What's your estimate off the top of your head of increase in hit and run?
I'm sorry,
2019, 13% to 19% is approximately how much increase in hit and run?
That would be 6%. But then this is also
No,
based,
it's a percentage of the,
it's the percentage of the total amount of crashes that occurred that year, just to give it some kind of ratio.
but of the hit and run at 13%, going from 13% to 19% is what percentage? Approximately. Well, it seems like it's increased quite a bit.
Yes, that's what the
Okay,
data does
I
show.
can make that qualitative assessment. You also have in there collision with object. What is that? I would think many collisions would be with an object.
So if,
What is a collision with object?
Those are those funky light posts that jump out into the intersection.
so,
Be that type of thing, I think.
So a fixed object is something that is fixed, attached to the ground.
Yeah.
A wall, a curb, median, a light pole, a tree, and then yes, anything that is constructed. And then non-fixed object would be a dumpster.
Well, it could be another vehicle, a moving vehicle.
Well, that's why we also have collision with motor vehicle.
Yeah, but I was just wondering, what a fixed object is, like a light pole or a telephone pole or a sign. Are signs in the way of people? It was so broad, I couldn't tell what that meant. So I was trying to get information on that. Usually data, you want to have data that is actionable. So for an example, you have that there's a lot of the pedestrian injuries and deaths or whatever are mid-block, which actually, it's not just mid-block, it's mid-section, several blocks. Then there's another place where people can cross as far as lighted crossings with crosswalks. What is the actionable, what can we do with the data? Or what has been done? Has anything been done with this data to improve things?
The data that we present is, we present it to our governing board. Governing board does consist of elected officials. And we do also have our TAC, which is engineers from our local entities that we work with. And so we present them this data, and it's basically out of our hands and up to them to decide what to do with that data.
Okay. Did you have anything to add?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Wilcox. So the engineers do look at the data, especially when they're proposing projects. So it is looked at as to, depending on when the project is. As you know, when the city of Las Cruces does its repaving and things like that, they do they have a schedule, and they'll look at things to see what needs to be improved at that time. And I'll defer to Mr. Barella on stuff for like the city, since most of the crashes happen within the city.
Yes, so when new projects are coming in for reconstruction, these are all things that we consider with new design. So pedestrian access, ADAs, sidewalk widening, all of that is considered with the design for construction for reconstruction projects that are coming up with the city.
So would it be reasonable to say that if we had one spot that was the highest incidence of either fatalities or injuries, that we would not be looking at whether or not minor improvements could fix that until we had a redesign? Is that a reasonable assumption?
That's reasonable. I guess I can't really answer that, but if there's a need for any redesign based off of data like this, I don't know who would be responsible for making that decision, or if it would wait till we are going to do a reconstruction there.
Well, in my role as advisory for this group, for the officials who take the advice or don't, I recommend that the top locations with highest incidence of injury of all sorts or death be looked at with a field a field study, to see if there's any small improvements that could reduce that fatality incident. Okay, then one of the other things I wanted to note was that the amount of fatalities and injuries caused by alcohol and drugs, these are usually are higher at night than they are during the day, even though the amount of vehicle traffic is less by a significant portion. So considering data that you want to have as actionable, obviously, and the police may be already doing this, you would have more patrols at night that would be looking at that. Okay, and then a couple of other things to point out. This might be useful for schools to teach. The incident of fatalities amongst youth goes up significantly when there's another youth in a car because they like to show off their great driving skills after 3 months to their passenger. And this has been shown to be one of the most risky combinations is to have a youth with a friend in a car, and it's something that could be emphasized in training programs or in, maybe it already is in driver training. And then finally, there was a section in there, it said, it noted that the cyclist had no helmet. And I just want to caution people that that's not the cause necessarily of the injury. The injury is caused by the precipitating events that led to that crash that of a person who had no helmet. That would be like saying that a car that went off the street and crashed because somebody was drinking and they weren't wearing their seatbelt, the cause was no seatbelt. So it's a common thing to assume that the cause is no helmet, but I just want to caution that that's a factor, but not necessarily the precipitating factor. Thank you.
Did you want to?
Yeah, I was just wondering, this doesn't need to be in the record, I don't think. Are these maps that you were showing, these GIS maps, are the dynamic maps online?
It does have to be on the record. It does have to be. Becky's rules.
Whatever. The dynamic GIS
Can you
maps.
just give your name again? So
Again, I'm Allison Gillette with the NMDOT Planning Division. The maps that you were showing, I was looking on your website while you were talking, are they going to be uploaded there? I couldn't seem to find them.
They will be uploaded.
Okay.
We just,
you want to get on the?
yeah. Katerina Pervengi. This is just the initial report. We do have the maps created. However, we have not posted them yet. When we present it to our governing board, after we present it to the governing board, we will upload the report and these maps to our website.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have a comment? And we done? So next we have committee and staff comments. So City of Las Cruces.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I do have some updates for you on the sharrows that you had questions about. So the sharrows that were placed, I think you had questions about the placement of the sharrows that were done on Hadley and Espina. So some of the sharrows that are placed in the middle of the driving lane are due to that right away has parking. It's a public parking. There's some streets don't have any parking, so you can put the sharrows closer to the curb and gutter. For some of these streets out here, there is public parking along these streets, so the sharrows were moved more towards the center.
Okay.
And if you look back on some of the aerial photos, you can kind of see that when the cars are parked there on the street, they would be blocking some of these sharrows. And also for them not being consistent, it's due to some of the right-of-way widths changing along the streets. So that is why you have some closer to curb and gutter, and then you have some that are more centered in the driving lane. And then on Hadley from Almendra to Solano, there are no sharrows on that portion because there is a plan for that portion to have bike lanes. So they did not put any sharrows along that point.
Okay. Is there a time frame for that?
I was not given one. I can find out. I can find out for you on those.
Okay. And is that all you have for us today?
Yes.
Okay. Doña County,
Chair, I have no comments today.
Town of Mesilla.
Just with the construction on University in front of Zia Middle School, we're having issues with during school pickup and drop-off, and we're working with the school SROs and as well as the school security, LCPS, to be able to better facilitate that. Other than that construction, no other comment.
Right, I saw an email just before coming here that there's a public meeting happening soon. See if I can find it real quick. It's not working real quick.
Mr. Chair, Andrew Guerra, for the record, just to kind of update, that is correct. We do have an ongoing university project. And we do have a public meeting coming up that went out, I believe, today for October 29th at 5:30 there at Zia Middle School.
Right, I just found it.
Yep.
Is that all you have?
That's all, Chair.
And then NMDOT.
Mr. Chair, that's really the only one that we have ongoing. Also, I-25 frontage, Treviso Road in Madrid, they're still working on that project. Seems that all the pavement's done and Treviso is open, but still waiting for Madrid to open up. The city might have more on that one.
I heard somebody say by the end of the month that Madrid, that intersection would be open. Maybe it was the city manager at his report. MPO staff.
Actually, Ms. Gillette would like to go ahead and make a couple of announcements.
Thank you, Dom. Just a minute, I have gifts to bestow.
Sticker.
All right, hi, my name is Allison Gillette. I am with the NMDOT Planning Division, and I work with your wonderful government liaison, Valerie, on many projects. I'm down visiting for the week, so she and I can catch up on some things and go to a few meetings, and she kindly offered to bring me to this one. And the timing actually seems very fortuitous because I'm listening to some of your questions and comments, and we do have some funding streams that I think might be of interest to you to take advantage of. So we've got 3 right now that I provided you with. And I'm glad yesterday I did hear that our Transportation Planning Services funds have come through. They are federal monies. So this is a application-based grant. We are a pass-through agency for it, so you don't apply directly to USDOT or FHWA, you apply to us. And it can be used for all kinds of planning documents. We've had Portales is doing a bike ped plan. Gallup is doing a safety plan, a safety action plan, a community safety action plan. Farmington is doing a road diet, and you guys can either do this through your MPO or the county or the city or the town of Mesilla can apply individually on their own. We've seen it both ways. The Southeast Regional Transportation Organization applied and got a trails plan that just wrapped up. Farmington MPO was the lead on the road diet, and that's wrapping up. We will handle all of the financials. We have an on-call engineering firm, Bohannon Houston, and you will just work with them on getting the plan you want, the designs you want if necessary, and any other tools. But we take care of all the background noise and just leave you all to focus on the planning stuff that's available. So wanted to make you aware of that one. We've also got a road safety audit. We have a new manager, project manager for that. I'm hearing some questions about maybe where to start. Road safety audits are a great tool to evaluate an area to then come up with some alternatives and then possibly turn that into a design. Some of our road safety audits turn into SHIP funding, so Highway Safety Improvement Program funding. I see you guys from Dominic's earlier presentation had a few of those that recently got funded, is that right? So RSAs are another vehicle for that. I think NM26 just finished one up in the Hatch, Deming area. And is Columbus moving forward? Okay. So there are some already happening in this region, but none that are directly in Las Cruces or your areas of Doña Ana County and the town of Mesilla. So I would encourage you to look into that. We've shared this information also with Aaron Chavarria and Andreas. So they're aware of this as well and they can help you. The application is in there and I'll have Valerie send you the paper form to fill if you guys want to fill that out. They're due by the 21st of November this year. And then the last one right now is the State Planning and Research Funds, SPR monies. Those are applied for by the MPO. Right now, the MPO has one that they're using for their traffic counts funding, but some of our other MPOs have applied to do intersection safety and efficiency analyses like Santa Fe has done, and that actually turned into the removal of 4 intersections. They took down the streetlights and just turned them into 4-way stops. Same thing, Santa Fe's got a pedestrian facility improvement program that they've been running using those SPR dollars, and that's been very successful. It's been a kind of a long-running project that they've been working on, and some of our, all of our MPOs in the north, Farmington and Santa Fe, have been using either SPR dollars, planning dollars, or their actual planning money, so your UPWP money, I saw you guys call it the FHWA 112 funds here, to fund, and I'll leave these with you, bike and ped master plans, safety plans. There's a whole website, and again, I'll have Valerie share this with you, but they're being very aggressive in creating these plans and then turning these plans into action, using them as kind of the starting point, and then building off of them into maybe a new STIP project, into a TAP grant or a rec trails grant, a CMAQ grant, so congestion mitigation and air quality's got some pretty open rules about what they'll take. You know, it doesn't just have to be electric buses, and then a CRP grant, a carbon reduction program grant. So there are these options available to you. Our northern MPOs are being very aggressive about it, and I would encourage you to do the same. And I think with the planning funds, I don't have a reason why this is, but the Mesilla Valley MPO doesn't hire contractors, and none of this work can really get done without the help of contractors. All of our other MPOs, including Mid-Region, which has the biggest budget, so that's the Albuquerque area, hires contractors to do their traffic counts, to do their safety plans. And I think if you guys want to get some of this work done, that you might need to consider that not all of this can be done in-house, and to take advantage of these opportunities that we're providing. The RSAs as well, we do all the financial paperwork. You guys just worry about concentrating on the RSA and the needs of that. And so please, I want to encourage you to take advantage of these and look at what some of your neighboring MPOs are doing in the state and see how you can maybe model some of their work and some of their efficiency. So.
Oh,
Does anybody have any questions?
So is this MPO more oriented, or is this more for the governmental entities?
It's both. So as I said, in some cases, the MPOs lead the charge. In some cases, it's the individual municipality. It just depends how you guys would
Okay.
want to.
So I'm guessing when I look at the county right now, since the Safe Streets for All grant has been completed, you should have areas to look at where you can leverage that information for these kinds of projects.
Have you guys started drawing funds on that yet?
I'm not sure, but all this is good info that I'm going to be forwarding over to our county engineering and advanced planning division.
Okay, I guess a word of caution but no guarantee. The federal government has been rescinding a number of transportation grants, especially those considered hostile to vehicles. I think the most prominent one that we've been hearing lately is the Albuquerque Rail Trail, the 11.5 million that was pulled. But what we haven't seen yet is that if someone's already started drawing the funds, then they haven't been pulling those back. But anything else, if you've got a grant agreement, you know, a notice to proceed, the money's been obligated, they'll still pull it if you haven't started drawing the money. And if you're being ghosted by FHWA, which we've also heard heard kind of rumors about, that no one's getting back to them to sign the final documents to get the money flowing, I would encourage you to call your legislator's office and start to put some pressure on that. I do believe at least that our New Mexico FHWA partners are in the office. I have received a couple of emails from them during this shutdown period. So yeah, I would just encourage the county to put the pressure on and get those monies flowing.
Right, well, that's particularly important for the city because they were awarded the Safe Streets for All grant. It's out to bid right now, but those are probably reimbursement grants, so.
Yeah.
So the money hasn't actually changed hands yet, so there's that danger.
Yeah. You know, it's kind of been a black box for all of us. They're not being real clear about precisely what's going to get canceled. We're just seeing patterns, you know, that walkability trails and bike ped items are getting pulled, but it's kind of random and, you know, a little bit here, a little bit there. And so that's what I'm just telling
Are
everyone.
you going to be able to present this to the TAC and to the governing board? Or
I guess I can have Valerie present it. None of it's really official information. Like I said, it's just a word of caution. Or are you talking
No,
about
I
all
mean
of
about,
this? Oh, yes, Valerie will present it. And we've presented all this information to Andrew and his team. They know as well.
okay,
So, yeah, I would just encourage you guys to continue to seek out.
yeah, because the important one is governing board because they're the policymakers and
Okay,
they get to direct and approve these kinds of projects.
okay. Well, again, if the county or the city want to go, you know, apply for an RSA or apply for the transportation on-call, that doesn't need to happen with the help of MPO. You guys can do that on your own. If you have a corridor study that you want to do, you know, within the city of Las Cruces, you can apply for some of the transportation planning services funds as the city. You don't need Dominic or Kat or Kyle to do that for you. And there are other planning, planning funding streams that you guys can access. The New Mexico Finance Authority, NMFA, still has their very popular local government planning fund going. That's an ongoing rolling application. I believe that they lifted the $50,000 cap, and they're now funding things like PERs and assessment plans. I don't know if they're doing safety plans or transportation plans, but still some documents that might be pertinent to your work. The DFA has the, it's a new one. I think it's the Community Development Program Fund. It's kind of a clunky name. That's due on the 27th of October, and that can also be used for planning documents. So, and there is stuff coming out at the state level and a little bit of the pass-through stuff, but the federal funds, at least for transportation right now, have kind of dried up.
Okay, well, thank you for this information.
Excuse me a second. Jim Wilcox for the record. I just want to make this really clear that, see if my understanding is correct. Today, we were presented with significant data that identifies high-risk areas based on data. And so it would be reasonable for the city to apply for a road safety audit with the supportive data from what was presented today, correct?
Yes, you could certainly do that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions, comments?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Committee comments. I guess I don't have anything for today. Any committee comments?
Any other, did you have something?
Mr. Chair, MPO staff.
Still the staff?
Staff updates.
I'm sorry.
The only update basically is that the safety plan will be on the website after the governing board presentation or within a time frame of that. Other than that, we don't have any updates at this time.
Okay. Okay, committee comments.
Mr. Chair, Jim Wilcox for the record. Have an update on the hiring for active transportation coordinator. They did the first collection of applicants. It's been about a month, and unfortunately, none of the applicants met the minimum requirements that would move them to the next level. But they're keeping the process open, and we'll see what happens.
Anybody else? So we have public comment available. Anybody else from the public? Seeing none, I'll hear a motion to adjourn. Nobody wants to go home.
Albert Casillas, I motion to adjourn.
Andrew Guerra, second.
We have a motion and a second. Without objection, we're adjourned. Thank you.